welcome to the Delta League podcast. Week 4 of the 2026 regular season. And we are gonna get right to the action. Starting on Monday, we had Atlanta hosting LA and Philadelphia, and in this one, Philadelphia wins it. Philadelphia 23, Atlanta 13, Los Angeles 3. For Philadelphia, Bobby Joe Singh had 7 goals. For Atlanta, Shalom Keller had 6 blocks. And for LA, who am I kidding? Philadelphia player Hunter Casely did not play in this game because he's recovering from the effects of a vasectomy. Now, Atlanta captain Jeff Septimus got yellow carded in this match for rough stuff, with Philly players Jamie Gilmore and Mahmoud Najelko. Surprised it wasn't worse, but all 3 players got the yellow card as the result. Now, this game was also delayed several times due to a bat flying around the stadium. And in the end of this one, Philadelphia picks up the 4 points. Atlanta, 2 points. Los Angeles, nothing. Now, let's move on to Wednesday, where we have Phoenix hosting Denver and Dallas. And Denver wins. Denver 37, Phoenix 21, Dallas 15. For Denver, Ray Rogers had 9 goals. And for Phoenix, Janus Ulrich had 6 blocks. This was an emotional game, as Amicus Drummond's number was raised into the rafters. Now, Phoenix player Janus Ulrich received a yellow card for delay of game, as well as Denver player Ray Rogers and Dallas player Anatoly Schaefer earning their first highlighter pens of the season. And in the end of this one, Denver picks up the 4 points, Phoenix 2 points, Dallas again nothing. Now, let's move on to the Saturday matinee game, where Baltimore is hosting Las Vegas and Miami. And in this one, Miami wins it. Miami 31, Las Vegas 17, Baltimore 7. For Miami, Maximus Brown had 8 goals, and Corbin Hargebend had 13 blocks. Now, Vegas player Bondi Reed did not play in this game because he was down with the flu, meaning Vegas went into this game with 11 players. Harmony Golan got the sacred black card in this one, missing the end of this match, which ended in a victory. Damn. Now, injured Vegas captain Emmett Ruin got involved in this one, broken arm and all, and you just have to add another week onto his departure time. Now, in the end of this one, Miami picks up the win. Miami gets the 4 points. Las Vegas, 2 points. Baltimore, nothing. Now, let's move on to Washington, where the Power are hosting Salt Lake City and New York. And in this one, New York wins a close one. New York, 39. Washington, 34. Salt Lake City, not very close at all, 4. Now, for New York, Rock Weinstein had 10 goals, and Bart Spratt had 8 blocks. For Washington, Claude Verstappen had 6 goals, and Sebastiano Guarnieri had 6 blocks. And for the Swarm, Moore Scudder also had 6 blocks. Now, New York player Rhino Montalban suffered a hip flexor injury. He'll be out 1 week. And Brad Blagg also got yellow carded in this game for goonery. And in the end of this one, New York picks up the 4 points. Washington, 2 points. Salt Lake City, nothing. Now, let's move on to Toronto, who are hosting Vancouver and Chicago. And in this one, Toronto wins. Toronto 53, Vancouver 20, Chicago 18. Now, for Toronto, Curly Barnabani had 13 goals, Lois Chahinian had 10 goals, and Devlin Hannibal had 9 blocks. For Vancouver, Nan Freiling had 5 goals, and Kofi Dominguez had an unbelievable 43 blocks, making up for last week. That's crazy. Now, for Chicago, Evan Parawal had 5 goals. Now, Toronto was late getting to this game due to the team bus breaking down a few blocks from the arena, and the team decided to walk to the stadium. Perhaps they should get more exercise more often. Now, Vancouver player Isaac Parker Johnson dislocated his shoulder in this match. He'll be out 2 weeks. And that was courtesy of Towers player Carol Cavadon, who then took some toll chucks from Vancouver player Belbeer Butker, thereby collecting his own yellow card in this match. And in the end of this one, Toronto will pick up the 4 points, Vancouver 2 points, Chicago nothing in this one. Now, let's move on to Memphis, where the Pharaohs are hosting Seattle and Montreal. And if it's a surprise, it's not a surprise. Seattle wins. Seattle 51, Montreal 27, Memphis 16. Now, for Seattle, Pooh McCarthy had 16 goals. For Montreal, Angela Carlucci had 6 goals, and Alice Hardman had 15 blocks. Now, Memphis player Bert Town got yellow carded in this one, along with Montreal player Clayton Orr. This was a rough scuffle, but suspended Montreal player Lalo Celli just had to get his 2 cents in. As a result, his suspension is extended until next Easter. And this prompted Memphis player Cash Morganella to get involved and get on the court. I see a yellow card and it has been painted black. That's incident number 2. He's gone for an additional 3 weeks. Now, Memphis players Jack Charette and Imogen Casely were seen in a little team fisticuffs after this game. I'd be upset too if you're the only team left without a single point. But save it for the court. So, in the end of this one, Seattle picks up the 4 points, Montreal 2 points, Memphis nothing. And let's move on to the final game. It's Portland hosting Detroit and Boston. And in this one, Detroit wins it. Detroit 41, Portland 11, Boston 7. Now, for Detroit, Tommy Anastos had 10 goals, and Borg Linehan had 5 blocks. For Portland, Sid Funk had 5 blocks. Now, Boston player Brett Yeager missed his flight to Portland. As a result, he was told to stay home. Detroit rookie Wayne Rickman broke his radius bone in this match. He'll be out 6 weeks. Portland player Farley Greenlaw was black-carded in this match. And Boston coach Marty Kroll also got a nice envelope in the mail for the chair that he whipped onto the court after the final buzzer sounded. That was an epic meltdown. The chair had to be stretchered out. Now, at the end of this one, Detroit, they get the 4 points. Portland 2 points. Boston nothing. Now, let's move on to the standings after week 4. Up at the top, we got Phoenix, Washington, Seattle, 14 points each. Chicago, New York, Detroit, 12 points each. Miami, 11 points. Denver, 10 points. Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Philadelphia, 8 points each. Salt Lake City, 7 points. Boston, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Atlanta, 6 points each. Dallas, 2 points. Baltimore, 2 points. Portland, 2 points. And coming up the rear, Memphis, nothing. Still. Now, let's move on to the goal leaders after week number 4. Up at the top, no surprise, Pooh McCarthy, Seattle, 53 points. Marnie Johnstone, Seattle, 33 points. LaQuisha Hershey, 30 points. Tommy Anastos, Hussein Cohen, Claude Verstappen, 27 points each. Georgios Stokidis, Carlo Flamia, 26 points each. Ivan Goss, 25 points. Venus Pilar and Elix Henderson, 24 points. And Wayne Rickman, 22 points. Now, the offensive player of the week is once again Pooh McCarthy with 16 goals. Now, let's move on to the block leaders after week 4. Up at the top now, a new leader, Kofi Dominguez, Vancouver, 51 blocks. Then Eli Ercolani, 34 blocks. Frederick Giacalone, 33 blocks. Jackson Truman, Phoenix, 29 blocks. Moore Scudder, Wilt Davola, Octavian Womack, 23 blocks each. Then we got Randall Kurzweil, 22 blocks. Ash Malik, Janice Ulrich, 21 blocks. Rhino Montalban, 20 blocks. And Brad Blagg, 19 blocks. The defensive player of the week is Kofi Dominguez with 43 blocks. Now, let's move on to the GXB ratings after week 4. Up at the top, Tommy Anastos, 324. Andy Alway, 320. Jackson Truman, 319. Elix Henderson, 312. Sebastiano Guarnieri, 306. Rhino Montalban, 280. LaQuisha Hershey, 270. Brad Blagg, 266. Wilt Davola, 253. Octavian Womack, 253. Venus Pilar, 240. Marnie Johnstone, 231. Now, let's move on to the league news. Now, bad news for the Shred, as Jamie Gilmore, unhappy with his contract negotiations, proceeded to get blackout drunk, then returned to the GM's office where he attempted to stab him with a screwdriver. Needless to say, Gilmore has been terminated. Now, the investigation into game-fixing scandal that indicted TJ Dalladone last week has found another official that outright admitted he tried to fix games. Dean Barando said although he constantly tried to shave points in games for proposition bets, he never tried to change the outcome of the games. The second guy this year. Now, bad news out of Montreal is the Maelstrom are losing their stadium after this year. The contract is expired and they aren't renewing the deal. A few relocations are on the table, but the team is unequivocally not moving. Now, this may seem like a broken record, but the Baltimore Battalion are looking to lose their stadium after this year as well. The Battalion assumed that the deal they signed was for a 3-year period, but the owner of the property says he's selling the place, demolishing the stadium, and turning it into a condo building. Not sure how the Battalion will be compensated for this breach of contract, but they have a year to find a new home. Now, injured New York player Mikko Musselman has been arrested. Please tell me it wasn't assault. Using a cast only works in pro wrestling, okay? It was a traffic stop and Mr. Musselman had to be chased several kilometers down the highway before he was apprehended. He was charged with failing to stop. Now, Musselman said, sorry, I had my Slayer tunes blasting and I didn't hear shit. Now, let's move on to Chicago assistant captain Ivan Goss, who had his day in court this week over unpaid parking tickets, and this stems over a 2-year conflict Goss had with a local HOA, and he refuses to pay any tickets for any car that was parked in his own driveway. He called them a bunch of self-righteous control freaks that are just jealous of his classic car that he keeps covered in his driveway. The HOA calls it an eyesore. He calls them Nazis. Now, Ivan Brody was leaving the arena this week when a masked assailant tried to go after him with a baseball bat. Needless to say, Brody decimated the guy and left his battered carcass on a park bench and called the cops. No charges pending. Goes to show, you never know what kind of martial arts training an individual may have when you select them for a random act of larceny. Brody has a black belt in Krav Maga. Flawless victory. Fatality. Now, Delta League Hero of the Week is Vancouver player Ana Maria Chavez. She saved a man from choking at a restaurant this Thursday. Too bad she couldn't be there for the Orcas to score some goals because they really need them. Now, some Boston fans are growing tired of their owner, Adriano Portaro, so they started a petition to get him to sell the team. The petition calls him a cheapskate who should cut his hair and go back to North Carolina. This does not look like an AI wrote this petition. It looks like a bunch of dumbasses wrote this petition. Now, Baltimore player Chris Hines is now vegan. What changed his mind? He said that he visited a slaughterhouse and he didn't like what he saw. Hines is still in the health food store looking for things to eat. Now, Larry McMaster tendered his resignation as the Denver Sky captain this week, citing his performance on the court is suffering as a result. And the team said, no, we're not accepting this resignation. Go home and think about it. Now, let's move on to the mailbag. Maddie V. Are you certain the Delta League is going to expand in 2 years? Because based on the performance of the newest teams in Delta League, they may not fare any better than Vegas and Baltimore and Portland. I don't mean to be an asshole, and I'd love to see Delta in Houston and San Francisco, but currently we have 7 teams in a bad way, and can the league really afford 10 shit teams out of 21? That's ridiculous, but it's the hard truth. Now, the competitive balance in the league has really taken a nosedive, and no, we can't have 10 of our 21 teams crapping the bed. The fans would never stand for this. Like we were discussing a few weeks back, we've got a massive amount of contracts coming due next April, and it is an amazing mechanism for talent redistribution. So, as far as the expansion teams go, growing pains are part of life in the Delta League franchise, but perpetual shittiness, that's a sign of bad management. Now, on to Poison Gas Man. This guy, Pooh McCarthy, is going to rewrite the Delta League record book. They're going to have to make the goalposts further apart. He's been the player of the week 3 weeks running now. It wouldn't surprise me if he scored over 200 goals this year, and after this year, he could just sign with Atlanta. Anything is really possible. Funny thing is, the guard kind of switches at a rapid pace in this sport. It's so much faster and rougher than it used to be, and it tends to favor a different kind of player. That's what you're seeing right now, and the talent level is so high. but we're on the edge of a knife here. One day he's the greatest of all time, and in a heartbeat he's serving fries. It's crazy. Now, let's move on to Week 5 games and predictions before I bid you all adieu. Now, on to Monday, where Memphis is hosting Portland and Toronto, and it's been just a bad year for Memphis. For Portland, this kind of start was expected, and now that Toronto has gotten out of their rut, I don't see either of these teams as competition, merely target practice. Now, on to Wednesday, where Denver is hosting Vancouver and Baltimore, and last week we got the signs that this Denver team is coming to life. Both Denver and Vancouver, come to think of it, I think all three of these teams have shit the bed this season already, so an upset is possible, but I'm taking Denver. Baltimore isn't made of the right stuff to beat anyone, and Vancouver, who am I kidding? They scored 0 points. Now, on to Saturday, where Boston is hosting Salt Lake City and Detroit, and Detroit gets these 2 soup cans on a Saturday afternoon, and they should thank the gods for such a lucky draw. But the thing about Delta League is the fat lady has a way of crushing your ass when you least expect it. Although I'm taking the Rock to win here, I expect this one to be tight. And based on the first 4 weeks, I'm taking the Swarm to take the deuce. Now, let's move on to Philadelphia hosting Phoenix and Miami. And this year, Miami has more wins than the last 2 years combined. This week, they got Phoenix and Philadelphia. And let's face it here, those were teams that Miami should have beaten. And in week 1, they tied Salt Lake City. This whole season could have been different. The Vortex are facing 2 superior teams here, and they're going to show their true colors. I'm taking Phoenix until this whole streak goes up in smoke. Now, let's move on to Montreal, who's hosting LA and New York. And the problem with the Angels is you don't know what team's going to show up. The problem with the Maelstrom is you have no idea what team is going to show up either. That's why I'm taking the Demons. Full stop. Now, let's move on to Chicago, who's hosting Dallas and Atlanta. And Chicago is down several players, and last week they took the loss. This week is just what the doctor ordered for the Pride. Freaking Dallas and Atlanta are on the menu. An easy 4 points. And on to the last game of the week. It's Las Vegas hosting Seattle and Washington. And here's the game for the power to show Seattle what they're made of. Whoever wins this game ends week 5 on top. And if you're Seattle, you're not used to this idea that there's other teams within 10 points of you. Vegas has 0 shot here. They could keep it tight and avoid major injury, but for the remaining teams, this could be a preview of the finals this year. That's it for this week in the Delta League podcast. Join us next week where the action will undoubtedly continue.